Hello, my name's John and I'm here to talk to you today about what Osgood Schlatter disease really is and ultimately how to be removing it. Now, I'm the head therapist here at John W Sports Injury and we specialise in working with adolescent athletes, and as a result, Osgood Schlatter disease is about the most common condition that we see. But I also feel that it's probably the most mistreated condition, and as a result, the children that we're seeing have been given wrong information, wrong education and a wrong understanding of the condition. So this really frustrates me. So what I want to do across the course of the next 15 minutes is to explain to you about what Osgood Schlatter disease really is and how you can remove it to help your child return to the sport and exercise that they love to do. So what we're going to cover across the next few slides, we're going to be talking about what Osgood Schlatter disease actually is, not some of the theories that I hear out there, and what the process that your child needs to go through in order to truly remove Osgood Schlatter disease. So firstly, who am I? Who is this person talking to you at the top of your screen? Well, my name's John White, as I said. I'm the head therapist here at John W Sports Injury, and my degrees, my educational background are in sport and exercise science and sport rehabilitation. And I've been working with sports injury since 2007 when I started John W Sports Injury. We now have 3 sports injury clinics. We're just outside London in Kent in the Orpington and Bromley area, and we specialise in working with adolescents who, as a result, the OSD, Osgood Schlatter disease, is about the most common condition that we see and work with here at our clinics. So there's some information, some pictures on our 3 different clinics and the team of therapists that we have here. So the other thing is that I've become a recognised blogger in Osgood Schlatter disease. Some of the blogs that I've put out there on the condition have been picked up by international websites. But what I want to do in this webinar is to give you that information, give you that content that we go through in those blogs. So the first thing that I want to do for you is to debunk some myths, some of the things that you may have heard that I hear mentioned when people come into clinic to see us. Osgood Schlatter disease is not just growing pains. Now, what I mean by that is I don't think that gives the condition the respect that is required in order to truly overcome by just sort of grouping it in this term of growing pains. We wouldn't do that with other injuries, and I don't believe we should do that in Osgood Schlatter disease, but it does happen. It isn't best just to play through it, and we're going to talk about this in some more detail. But with that notion, it's also not something that means that your child has to have huge amounts of time away from sport and exercise. So what we need to do is understand the condition a little bit better. So what we do know, well, we know that it's a condition in its own right, as with any other injury. If we have an ankle sprain, if we have a hamstring tear, they are specific injuries. And Osgood Schlatter disease is that. It's a specific condition that we need to truly understand and give a personalised approach in order to overcome. Every child and case will be different. So what I mean by that is with this condition, we're dealing with nature. It's a growth-related condition, not just growing pains, it's a growth-related condition. And as a result, children will differ. Now, this is predicted to be affecting anywhere up to about 1/3 of children. So lots of people will be getting this, or 1/3 of child athletes, I should say. So a lot of sporty children will be getting this, but it really is caused by their growth or nature. So as a result, they need an individual approach because their cases will be different. And it's the same reason it's very difficult for us to answer, well, how long does it take to overcome it? Because children will vary in the amount of time that they take to overcome it. But as a result, it requires individual care and individual attention, giving your child the respect and the attention that they deserve in order to overcome and get back to their own individual goals. Again, we work with children looking to get back to lots of different sport and exercise, and as a result the rehabilitation has to be tailored in order to meet that. So what is the condition? Well, the OSD, Osgood Schlatter disease, is a condition where the area at the top of the shin or the knee becomes inflamed and becomes sore. Now, this area, which we're going to talk about in a second, is what we term the tibial tuberosity. This is the bony lump at the top of your shin. Now, in adults, this is bone because growth has finished, but in children or adolescents, this is a growth plate. This is a soft structure called cartilage, and this allows the bone to grow, and when it's finished growing, that growth plate plate turns into bone and the growth has finished. But in the adolescent athlete, this allows us to grow, so that's great. But the downside is that we have these big thigh or quadricep muscles that actually come in and attach. Their tendon attaches onto that growth plate, onto that tibial tuberosity. So if we develop some dysfunction or some problems that affects that area, it can become very inflamed, very sore, and result in this Osgood Schlatter's disease condition. So here, if we look at this picture here on the screen there, we can see that we have this tibial tuberosity, this bony lump that you can see is below the kneecap at the top of the shin bone, at the top of the tibia. And we have these quadricep muscles here. Now what happens is that this tendon comes down and it actually attaches onto this growth plate. So if we get some dysfunction here and we have excessive force being placed upon this tendon, it will pull at its attachment point here, and that will cause some of the soreness. If we think of it being with a elastic band, for example, that's attached to a wall. So if I have an elastic band attached to this wall here, and I pull at that elastic band, the chances are I'm going to get some damage in that elastic band, and the chances are that it will be close to the point where it's attached. But what we need to do, well, we can stitch back that elastic band. If I carry on pulling, the same problem is going to happen. What we actually need to do is stop the excessive pulling in order to allow that to be fixed. And that's the similar analogy that we need to apply to Osgood Schlatter's disease. So how do people get this wrong? Well, what they do is they just worry about the cause. They just worry about the knee. But actually, it needs to be a two-way street. We are never going to fix that knee unless we address the cause. So what I want to do is explain to you why I think of this as a child being bullied in a playground scenario. And this is how I often explain Osgood Schlatter disease to the adolescent athletes that I work with. Now, what we have here is if we have a child being bullied in the playground, so the child being the knee, you know, that's the thing that's sore and upset. And then we have the thing causing the problem, the bully. Okay, now what we can do in that situation is we can take the child out of the playground. And that would be the case of treating just the knee. So that might be resting it and icing it and things, which would allow it to settle down. But then when they go back into the playground, the thing they want to do, the sport and exercise, what's going to happen? Well, the bully's going to pick up again and the problems are going to come right the way back. Even if they don't happen on day one, they will happen within a week. And that's what happens with Osgood Schlatter disease. So what we need to do is we need to do two things. We need to take the child out of the playground to allow that situation to settle. But whilst that's happening, we need to correct the bully so that when we reintroduce the child into the playground or back to sport and exercise, these two can now work in harmony. And that's the way that we look to apply our program to Osgood Schlatter's disease. So for this reason, simply resting, so simply taking the child out of the playground and leaving them there for a bit is not the answer, nor is just playing through, putting the child into the playground with the bully and just hoping it will resolve itself. That's what we're doing in those two scenarios. So what we need to do is a combination of those two things in order to allow this to work properly. So what we need to do, we need to calm those symptoms. Yes, the pain is at the knee. We need to settle that knee. For a period of time, we take the child out of the playground. But we must make sure that there's no extra force being applied to that tibial tuberosity. So yes, we want to settle down the pain around that area, but we must make sure that there's no extra force going to that area or we're never going to have a chance of healing it. So we must ensure a couple of things really. The muscles that affect the knee are flexible and we need to make sure that they are strong enough to cope with the demands that your child wants to place upon them. So it's the flexibility and the strength that we need to address. Now, we have what I term the big three players when it comes to Osgood Schlatter disease. And these are the thighs and quads. Okay, as I've already said, they come down and attach onto that knee. You have the hamstrings, the muscles at the back of the leg. Now these work together, what we call an antagonistic pair with the thighs and quads. So we need to make sure that those muscles are working in harmony, because if we have a problem at the hamstrings, then it will affect the thighs and quads. And the thighs and quads might be overworking, but actually the problem is with the hamstrings. And then by the same notion, we have the glutes as well, which can often cause problems down towards the knee. So these are the three big players that we want to make sure that we're addressing. So what do we do to help hundreds of children get back to sport? Well, we've developed our own unique program. And what this allows us to do is conduct a series of tests to get an understanding of your child's flexibility around those big three players and also understand their strength. then what we do is we place a progressive development program to allow your child to make their way through and be progressively getting more difficult as they go through in order to then go safely back to their sport. And what it allows is an individual approach for your child, and we look for them to meet certain indicators for when we think they can then be safely looking to re-involve sport and exercise for them. So we are available to help you, and we do this really in a couple of ways. We have our face-to-face appointments, either with our in-house clinic appointments. As I said, we're based in the Orpington and Bromley area, but we also have our virtual clinic where we can join you like I'm joining you now across the internet, and we can conduct the same principles that we apply into our face-to-face appointments. We also have an online program, which we're going to talk about in a little bit more detail, but an online program where we take this in-house program that we've been doing and we've placed that online with a series of videos and week by week progress lessons in order for you to work with your child to overcome Osgood Schlatter's disease. So what can you expect from a face-to-face appointment? And this is in-house or virtual appointments. Well, these can be in person or through our virtual clinic. We will meet with you and we will explain clearly what Osgood Schlatter's disease is. Hopefully I've helped you in understanding a little bit about Osgood Schlatter's disease through this webinar. But what we want to do is be able to explain how your child's Osgood Schlatter's disease is affecting them. We will conduct our series of tests, and this will allow us to establish what is actually causing your child's Osgood Schlatter disease. So what we're looking for is, are they tight in one of those big three muscles, or two of those big three muscles, or three of those big three muscles? Or are they weak in any of those areas that may be leading to dysfunction? But as you can see, it might be that one child has an issue with the thighs where they're too tight. One child might be too weak in their glutes. One child might be too weak in their hamstrings, but also too tight in their quads. So we have to apply this individual approach, and you have to have the ability to understand what is causing those. We will provide manual treatment. So if it's a in-house appointment, we will be applying soft tissue massage, we will be applying manipulation in order to help that dysfunction and start to calm those symptoms. If it's a virtual appointment, we'll be working with you and showing you how you can apply those, your child to themselves or you to your child in order to help address that tissue. We'll establish the stage in the program that your child should be working at. So it might be that some children come into us and unfortunately they're finding even walking a bit difficult because of their soreness. They would be starting at the beginning of the program. Other children might just get a bit of soreness at the end of sport. They may be able to start the program further down the line. But what we're looking to do is give that individual approach so that your child comes in at the correct point. And then following an appointment with us, your child will be sent a personalised rehabilitation program with pictures and videos to follow for the stage that they are at. And then we have follow-up appointments, if necessary, to allow for a full recovery, where we're looking to progress your child and follow up to how it's been going as they make their way through the program. The online program. So what does the online program do? Well, this allows you to work with your child in the comfort of your own home. We follow the exact program that we adopt in our clinics. It uses simple exercises that are progressed as your child condition improves. So we have a series of tests, we have a series of stretches that are outlined in the beginning of the program, and the program is all taught by me via video lessons for you. And as we take some simple exercises that they're probably familiar with already, like squats and lunges, and as the weeks progress, we progress your child by adding to those exercises, developing those exercises, moving in a different way to stress the knee and a little bit more, a little bit more pressure as they get stronger. And it would all be taught to you with exercise programs and recovery programs to follow as they make their way through. We discussed the extra things that can be done. This includes icing, rolling, soft tissue massage in order to support them as they make their way through the program. There's weekly testing. I really like testing. It allows us to demonstrate that your child is making progress, and that keeps them involved, keeps them enthused by the program, because they can see that their sport and exercise, the things they love to do, are getting closer. You will be guided then when your child is ready to return to sport. And it allows you to provide that individual care that they deserve, rather than just saying this generalized term of you're suffering growing pains, you need to do this. It allows you to really understand where your child's strong, where your child's weak, where your child's tight, where your child's flexible, and you can adopt the program to be really working with them in the correct manner. And I will be there. It's all taught by me. So I'm there every step of the way to coach you in the exercises, in the techniques, in the tests of exactly how to complete them and what to do next and when to move on to the next stage. So I hope that's been helpful for you. As I say, we've been talking through for the last 15 minutes, understanding exactly what Osgood Schlatter's disease is. I hope I've been able to give you a better picture, a better understanding of what that is. But start your journey today. All the links that are required for you are below. You can see those, or they will be wherever you've found this webinar from. But effectively, head over to johnwsportsinjury.co.uk, where you can be seeing information about us. You can book appointments for our face-to-face or our virtual clinic. If you're interested by the online program, go to www.johnwsportsinjury.co.uk/Osgood, and you'll be able to see more information about the online program. But whichever way suits you, we cannot wait to get going. We really have this mission to try and help as many children as we can to overcome. My biggest hatred is seeing children not being able to take part in sport and exercise that they love to do because of this Osgood Schlatter disease condition. So we want to work with you. We want to help your child overcome this. And so we want to be starting your journey to recovery today. I hope that's been helpful, but with any questions, please do feel free to reach out to me.